Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host of Conversations with Cierra. I am Cierra, and this is my YouTube channel. I'm totally not editing this video because of what I've chosen to do. So, based on the title, you see that I have something to talk about. So for years, I had used April 19th as a reset for my life. Yeah, we're just gonna say I used April 19th for so long as a reset. So in 2008, April 19th of 2008, I actually participated in the Purity in Paradise pageant through my home church. So maybe a month or so leading up to the event, it might have been sooner than that, we took classes, we were connected to a mentor, we picked out like these lovely white dresses, met with someone to like do our makeup, get our skin complexion. We had like multiple practices. We had to get like an escort and a presenter. All of these things, wonderful. We had to like raise money for like the fundraiser. We learned to do like the the waltz, the dance, and we danced to Cierra when I was just a little girl. I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Cierra. Okay, yeah, that song. We danced to that song, and it was just like, whoop, boop, 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 boop. We had like dresses on, and it was like, oh, this is fun. And we had to do like a talent, and I did a poem called His Child, Whose Child, God's Child. I was dressed as an angel. I do not remember where I even got these angel wings from, but I was an angel. And in the middle of the poem, I forgot it. I'm giving y'all all this context because I want y'all to walk through what I went through. And yeah, I forgot what my poem was supposed to be about. I kind of just like froze. And yeah, so it's nearing the end of the pageant, and the pastor goes up and he does a sermonette. Not uncommon, you give a pastor a mic, they probably have something to say. But as a 16-year-old standing in a room surrounded by witnesses and God, I was told to lift whatever hand it was before God and repeat some vows. And as I'm saying these vows, I'm like, I just took a vow to save myself into marriage. Oh, that's kind of deep. So in regards to the pageant, I end up being the first runner-up. So I was given a scholarship. The scholarship was put into a mutual fund. But when my brother and my mother set up the mutual fund, I couldn't go with them because I had to get teeth extracted. But I digress. My escort, or my presenter, I guess the escort was one of the guys from my church, and my presenter was my brother. So it was really cool. I have a picture of it. If you guys want to see it, I'll share it with you all. So yeah, that was the pageant. So April 19th of 2021 would make 13 years of the vow to purity, if that's right. If I'm doing math right, 13 years. So it's been 13 years since then. And for so long, I had used that date as the reset, but I did like the reset fast at the end of 2020 and did the reset Bible devotion. And I thought it was really interesting how I had used one date as a reset, and the Lord allowed me to reset prior to then. And for years, I have to be honest, I lived behind this whole virginity piece for so long, and I wasn't living a life of purity. Talked a good talk, but my walk wasn't the best. I'm sure it didn't bring glory and honor to God. I recall having a conversation with one of my friends at the end of 2020. The wind is blowing outside, sorry. Having a conversation with one of my friends at the end of 2020, and I mentioned, I'm still talking to such and such, and she was just like, I know. And I'm like, how did you know? I haven't spoken to you in a long time. She's like, I know you. Like, I've been your friend long enough. I know you. I kind of know your track record. I know these things about you. And I'm like, okay. And somehow we got into the conversation, and she just flat out asked me, like, well, why haven't you had sex? And I'm like, gave her the reasons, and she's just like, I still don't hear the reason why you haven't done it. And the premise of the conversation was, she didn't say this, but this is kind of what I took away from the conversation and why it sat with me for so long. You spend so much time dwelling on something. You're giving life to so much things in your mind that you're not going to follow through with. So what's stopping you? You've thought it, so you have done it. So what's stopping you from doing it? And I'm like, whoa, that ain't just with sex. That's with anything. You spend so much of your mind, giving so much of your energy to something that you're not even gonna follow through with in this current season of your life. And for me, it was, you're not even gonna have sex with this person. So why are you even entertaining the fact of it? That's kind of what it was. So I was involved in a situationship for years. Started in 2013, and it came to an end, praise the Lord, the latter part of 2020. Actually, it was, the conversation with my friend was actually confirmation that I needed to end the situationship. So, situationship with a man that I met in college. I called him a man. I mean, we're the same age. But a male that I had met in college. It started off as a friendship, and in my mind, I'm like, yes, girl. So when I get into a relationship, I want us to be friends first, and then he'll start liking me, and I might like him, and then like we'll move into like a relationship, and that's what it's gonna be like, and it's gonna be this little cute. I don't even want to say fairy tale, but I guess that's what you can call it. It could be a fairy tale. I don't know. That's where my mind was, where I allowed my mind to go, because I actually was raised in a culture where people actually got married early. So I saw a lot of marriages in people's early 20s. Like, this is not uncommon. This is what people do around me. So this is what I was accustomed to. Growing up, I shared before, I was raised in a single parent home, but in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll probably have me a boyfriend by such and such age, and I'll be doing such and such. And that didn't happen. So in my perfect agenda, I would graduate college at 21, and then like after graduation, I would get engaged, and then maybe like a year later, I would get married, and then I would have kids or something like that. And as you can see, I am 29. I'm single as a Pringle, and I ain't got no churn. I ain't got no potential. B. Text line, DMs dry. As my shirt says, focus on you, sis. And that's exactly what I've been doing. I had to focus on me. But growing up, I was saying all that to say, just growing up, I saw a lot of young marriages, and they appeared to be fun. But this particular gentleman, I'm about to say the word entanglement, but it was just not a healthy situation. So this went on for, like I said, it went on from 2013 to 2020, and it was like this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I can be honest, I was interested in the person in college. They didn't give me the time of day. They were very nice to me, but they didn't give me the time of day. And then when we went our separate ways after graduation, that's when he started to show interest in me. And we're going to take ownership for our words. So I think, and I'm closing my eyes because I'm trying to make this make sense. I think that I was wrapped up in the fact that someone was showing me attention, and this was a person that I was semi-interested in before. Now it's showing me attention, and how do I handle this? How do I accept this? So I like to say it was a wall. So if it was a wall in between us, over time, like the wall like fell like down, not completely, but you know, it started to fall like down. So things that I used to be like, oh no, I would never do that. What's wrong with you? It was just like, what'd you say? Okay. And that's kind of what happened over the course of the 7-year span. That's exactly what took place. A lot of back and forth. And he was involved in church, know the Bible, great support, great reputation. But it's the secret things like, your pastor know you talk like this. Your leaders know you talk like this. But, you know, when you doing what you're doing, you ain't really talking to your friends. There's no level of accountability. A lot of things slide, and they shouldn't at all. Like, you shouldn't just let stuff slide. So, and that's kind of what happened. And like I said, it was this back and forth thing. So I could be walking close to Jesus. He hit me up on some crazy stuff. And I'd be like, boy, no, I'm close to Jesus right now. And then I could be in a weak moment and I hit him up. And he like, I'm close to Jesus. You need to talk to your friends. And then you have those moments when it's two people in weakness and just buffoonery. Pure tea buffoonery. And that's what it led to. So I remember when I was younger, growing up, within my household, I can say that sex wasn't really like talked about, or yeah, it wasn't really talked about. But my aunt, my mother's sister, I remember I was maybe like 7 or 8. I recall a conversation, and I don't know if she used to like drill this in my head or she used to like quiz me, but I remember her saying one day, Cierra, you always keep your pants up. You always keep your panties up. You always keep your dresses down. You always keep your skirts down. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm a kid. Like, of course, I only will move them the opposite unless, you know, I have to like go to the bathroom or something. But it kind of stuck with me. Definitely stuck with me. And I thought it was really interesting that I started to develop early. And I joke with my friends now, I'm like, if I started like my menstrual cycle and stuff early, like, does that mean I'm going to menopause early? I think I just had a lot going on for a kid to be so young. Like, it was just like, okay, what's going on here, type thing. So yeah, it was just a lot going on super early in my life, and I'm like, why is this happening to me? But in my household, like, yeah, sex wasn't talked about, or just like, don't bring no babies home. And I'm like, what? I ain't been doing those type things. But at church, I remember them teaching a sex education class. Well, I remember 2 situations where, or 2 incidences where like sex was talked about within the church. Because a lot of times people say sex isn't talked about in church. I can't say that because my church actually talked about sex. Shout out to my youth leaders. Back in the day, they talked about this stuff. And then people still, you know, made their decisions on what they wanted to do. So I remember one situation, or it was a class where they talked about like sex being using like a sticker or a band-aid or something. And it was just like, the more it touches thing, it loses the stickiness. And that's sometimes how sex can be with the wrong person. Like, if you keep having sex with multiple people, it loses the stickiness. And I'm like, ugh, that's nasty. And then the other one was they had like put like a blanket on the floor, and it was like it started off with 2 people, and then as time went on, more people were added to the carpet, and or the carpet to the blanket or whatever. And it like they kind of talked about or taught about how like when you have sex with a person, you know, you become one and it's like an exchange, and then that person had sex with a person, like that's an exchange. So now you're like picking up all these different spirits, and I'm like, whoa, that's a lot, because at some point it was so many people on the carpet. I'm like, whoa, that is kind of crazy. Other thing was, I remember I probably was that situation was in my early teenage years. Yeah. Other situation was they had an older woman at my church teach a sex education class, and I wasn't really interested in sex, so I didn't really take what she said seriously. And I want to say she said something to my mom one day after church and was like, I'm really concerned about Cierra because she sits in class and she looks so unengaged, and she jokes about stuff, and I don't know if she's really connecting with what I'm talking about. And I want to say my mom told her like, yeah, that's not really what Cierra's thinking about. Like if she has questions, she'll definitely ask them, but that's not where her mindset is. And that was the truth. I'm just like, I'm not doing these things, so why are we talking about this? But looking back, I'm grateful for those conversations, because I don't know, I think a lot of times I look not engaged or unengaged or uninterested, but I'm actually paying attention. I'm definitely paying attention. I'm very observant. I'm listening to things, and that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about. So I had talked about in the one episode, I talked about having the Cierra, are you gay? And then I went into like the whole identity crisis or identity issues, and then going into like the daddy issues, and then we went into like living in the shadow. And now we're going to talk about, we're talking about me being promiscuous, or allowing that spirit to be on me, allowing me to become promiscuous, and what I'm doing. Talking the talk of purity, talking the talk of virginity, but not actually living that out. And like I said, that was just the one situation I shared with you in regards to the situationship. But over the course of the year, there were other males that I just developed unhealthy relationships with that were not beneficial at all. Like, they were not beneficial at all. But it's just like, I was that person for so long. I've been told that I was judgmental. That's since I was young. I had been told, like, you're so judgmental of people. And then the person that I was quote unquote judging all these years, when I became that person, I'm like, whoa. Because for so long, guys, if I could be honest, I never understood how girls would end up in these situations. Like, girl, he told you from day one, his character showed you from day one that he meant you no good. So how you end up there? And then I became her. Like, this new, dude never said like, yo, I'm trying to be with you. I'm trying to just be with you. He told you just enough to make you feel good for you to want to compromise whatever it was. And like I said, I did that for so long. And with the particular guy, like, initially, like, convicted, like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have done this. Like, this is totally not okay. But the more and more I engaged in inappropriate activities, the more the conviction, like, wore off. Like I said, initially, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sad. God, I'm so sorry. And then it was like, I would go on, and it was just, I would become so numb. And like I said, I'd done this for 7 years, and yeah. I did 7 years, and I'm talking about, you all don't understand. Like, becoming, well, maybe you do understand. Like, maybe you do. And you're watching this and you're like, Cierra, I get it. Becoming so numb. And because I had never had sex before, like, I have given everything that I could give to a person and not have sex with them. Like, in my mind, like, I've given you my all. I've given you everything that I actually have to give you without having sex with you, and it's not enough. So I felt like so empty, and I'm like, yo, I'm so happy that you did not have sex, because how worse would you feel? And then over the course of the years, I've learned that you don't have to have sex with a person to develop a soul tie. And I had soul ties, and that's something in December that I had to actually start calling out names of the guys that I was involved with, or had these situationships with, that were unhealthy, because those things started to like take root in my mind. Like, so certain places, certain smells, certain songs, I'm like, God, you literally have to take these things away from me. You have to extract these things. I have to call these things out before you. I want to be delivered. I want to be free. I want to walk in victory. I want to one day be able to tell my testimony of how I overcame these things and what I did. And I'm so happy to be doing this with you all today, because guys, it was so exhausting. So exhausting. Yeah, it's like so exhausting, because all I ever wanted or felt that I ever wanted was like, I just want to be loved. I just want to be accepted. Like, me loving Jesus, that isn't enough. Like, I have to compromise who I am to be liked, to be loved. That can't be right. And then, just allowing myself to settle. Yeah, don't do that. Girl, you watching this? Do not allow yourself to settle. Do not settle. Do not settle for the sake of attention. Don't do it at all. And I'll say this as well. And I think I hit on this in the second video that I did. And it was just like, sometimes I would do stuff to fit in, and then I would do other things not to fit in. Definitely being promiscuous. It seemed to be the popular thing. Being... And that was another thing. I remember like begging God, like, God, please don't let me ever be exposed. Please, Lord. Oh, Jesus. God, y'all. And I say thank you, God, for grace and mercy. And that my past is actually covered in the blood. Sin is sin. And I was a sinner. I was living a lie. Like, and that was another thing that I actually had to learn. Like, well, I would say that I tried to live a life pleasing unto God, and then people made me feel bad for feeling convicted. And it's like, Cierra, you need to learn to give yourself grace, because you're not perfect and you're gonna mess up. And then like I let that set in my mind, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, no, Cierra, you was on the right track. You need to hold yourself accountable. If you are doing something that you shouldn't be doing, you should be convicted. Don't allow the people who want to live in the habitual sin make you feel bad for actually feeling convicted and actually wanting to live a life that is pleasing unto God. Understood what they were saying, but now I see it in a totally different sense. So, someone asked me after I had did the Cierra, Are You Gay video, they asked me, how do I maintain my purity just in life in general? So something that I actually had to do, I had to control what I have access to, what has access to me. Tribbett did a video at his standout concert, the live recording in Virginia Beach, and he kind of talked about you have to withstand and stand against. Like, it's okay for you to be like, oh no, I ain't doing that, but then you got to stand against and be like, why you doing that type thing. And he talked about like every thought needing a bouncer. Like every thought that you have needs a bouncer. And I would drop that in the description of this video. That sermon, I would definitely recommend you check that out. He was like, every thought needs a bouncer. Like, you can't just let your thoughts run wild. You have to check those things. And that sermon, you know, a lot of things that happened in my childhood kind of stuck with me. That sermon definitely did. So controlling what I have access to, what has access to me. My conversations, I can't be engaging in conversations that aren't edifying to me. I mean, and other people too. I don't want them to participate in conversations that aren't edifying to them either. So I can't be talking about any and everything with everybody. The people around me, I like to, or I have moved to surrounding myself with more like-minded people who actually love God. Like, that was one of my prayers, like, God, surround me with women and men that actually love you, because I need to learn to have healthy relationships with men that don't involve me wanting them or them wanting me, and somewhere in this flirtation and being promiscuous. Like, break me of that, rid me of that, God. So yeah, so conversations, music, I can't be listening to y'all know the ones that be making you be thinking like, yeah. So I can't be listening to all the artists and all the explicit things. Had to watch like the music, movies, TV shows, anything that would put me in a space where it's just like, this isn't edifying to me. Just had to change those things, just to be honest, because someone asked. Just being guarded in those areas, like definitely being guarded. And it's okay to, you do what you got to do to make sure that you're straight. I had to do what I needed to do to make sure Cierra's straight. So majority of my music, not that my friends joke on me, but they were like, hey, did you hear this song? And I'm like, guys, I listen to the same songs over and over again on my phone. And majority of those songs are like worship songs. People laugh at me all the time because I do not watch TV. Like, I don't watch TV. I literally go to work. I will, do scroll on social media. If it's a video or something on YouTube, I would definitely check it out. But outside of that, watching TV, and it's not really fun to me. I read books and things like that, but just a super guarded person. So yeah, so we're gonna hop into some scriptures, and then I'm gonna end this video because I'm nearing my mark that I wanted to stop at. So some scriptures is 1 Corinthians 6 verses 19 through 20, and it says, or do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price, so glorify God with your body. And then we go to Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verses 22 through 24. Flee from evil desires of your youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Then we have Romans chapter 6 verse 13. Do not offer any part of yourself to sin as an instrument of wickedness, but rather offer yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life, and offer every part of yourself to Him as an instrument of righteousness. Colossians 3:5. Put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to the earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which is idolatry. James 4:7. Submit yourselves then to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. And the last one was James chapter 1, verses 13 through 15. Let no one say when he is tempted, I'm being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he's lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it is conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, gives or brings forth death. So those were some of the verses that I wanted to share with you all, that I have read over, have meditated on, and definitely had to use and just be reminded. You can't flee from Satan if you openly invite him into what you have going on. I've been listening to a song and it says, we honor you, not just with our lips, but with our heart. So my encouragement to you is, don't just honor God with what you say, but what's in your heart. Because the word also says, you will reap what you sow. And life is kind of like cause and effect. So whatever you fill up on is definitely going to overflow out. So another example from my childhood. I have all these childhood examples, but we were told, like, okay, if you feeding yourself with like trash, garbage, all this stuff, that's what's going to overflow out. So yeah, what are you filling up on? What are you filling up on in life? So thank you all for watching this video and hearing another portion of my testimony on how God has assisted me with overcoming the spirit of being promiscuous, and how I am actively living a life of purity, not just sexually, but purity in general in life. So April 19th is definitely coming, and this year I can look at it totally different. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all next week.